The Epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 11. It's pretty long. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Well, there's a famous line right there, right? For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. What does that mean? By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he, being dead, yet speaketh. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony that he pleased God. But without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. By faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark of the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should, after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength. Well, that's good. We're hearing about a lady to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. I don't like when people say bad things about her when she laughed. And she's like, ha ha ha, yeah, sure, I'm going to be pregnant. People try to say bad things about it, but see what it says here? Because she judged him faithful who had promised. Nothing about her laughing. Therefore sprang then even of one, in him as good as dead. So many as the stars of the sky in multitude. See, we had this lesson the other night that multitudes are always, it's the multitudes of people. It's always a bad sign. It's always a bad phrase to use. But we always hear also of the multitude of, like, Abraham's seed will be scattered like the multitude of every sand in the world, right? There will be that many descendants coming from him. As many as this, every grain of sand on the sea. And then you see it here talking about multitude of stars in the sky. So it's not bad here. And as in the sand, see, which is by the seashore, innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is an heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offended, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promise offered up his only begotten son. Okay, so there's a parallel between Abraham and God. But if you read in the book of, is it Jasher? I don't know, because I haven't read it yet. Or Jubilee, which I'm not sure. I'm going to be prepared to go straight into after this. Or Enoch, I'm not sure what I should read first, or if I'm going to go through the, I know I have to go through this again to clean it up, but in the book of Jasher, Jubilee, you read that Nimrod was colleagues, let's just say, with not just Abraham. I don't think it was Abraham. I think it was his father. And he did the same exact thing. Nimrod did the same thing what God is doing to Abraham. But it was a little different. It was like Nimrod is like, give me your son, Abraham. And he's like, no, And he's like, I'll do anything for you, right? I'm like your right-hand guy, right? And he's like, well, give me your son. And he answered him, look, Lord, I will give you, because, they call each other that when they're kind of slaves, right? So he's like, Lord, I will give you anything you ask for. But, I don't remember the exact answer, but it was really thoughtful. And so I just want to throw that in there because this has actually happened before between Nimrod and Abraham's father. He tried to get Abraham. See, that's how deep the seed is, right? The serpent seed. They want to get all the genes so that Christ can't be born. Of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith, Jacob, see, we're splitting up now, the good and the bad, right? Jacob and Esau. Isaac, see, they don't even talk about Ishmael. Yeah, they didn't even bring him up. Let's see what they say about Esau over here. By faith in Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph, and worshipped, leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel, and gave commandment concerning his bones. By faith, Moses. So you see this, every single paragraph is starting out by faith. It started in 8. It started in 7. No? 4. Right? By faith, Abel. And then it goes by faith, Enoch. And then it goes by faith, Noah. By faith, Abraham. Through faith, also Sarah. By faith, Abraham. By faith, Jacob. By faith, Joseph. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come 2 years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God. I like the way he puts that, whoever's writing that. Than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Yeah, well, I'm still hurt over, I don't think he should have spent 40 years in the desert just because he killed that guy that was beating and trying to kill his Jewish brother in the slave blocks when they're outside doing hard work. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. He sure did. That's pretty bold, right? Because he was raised in that household, and he's just, look, guess what? Yeah, you're going to have to let all these Hebrews go right now, right? For he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith, he kept the Passover. That's right, remember that? He told him, he goes, look, man, he goes, look, Pharaoh. He goes, you're going to let my people go into the wilderness and do our feast day. I think this is how it all started, right? Like this whole horrible war. Is this how it started? This started because they're already in captivity, but then Moses is like, no, you're going to have to let us do our feasts. And like Pharaoh's looking at him like, what are you talking about, right? I raised you, and now you're doing this. And I don't agree with this anyway. Like, can you imagine his reaction? Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. Right? So when they were doing Passover that night, that's when the Lord went, the angel of death passed over their houses if they had the sprinkling on the door. By faith, they passed through the Red Sea, as by dry land, which the Egyptians assaying to do were drowned. So, again, we all know the Hebrews made it to the other side of the Red Sea, and the Egyptians, who attempted to do the same thing and follow them, they were drowned. And isn't it nice that to this day, don't they find chariots down there in the bottom of the Red Sea? Egyptian chariots. Yep. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down. Yep. Right? That was like Joshua, and they all had their shofars, and they were all blowing them at a certain time, and Joshua told them, because God told Joshua, right? After they were compassed about 7 days. By faith, the harlot Rahab, right, perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. So when Joshua, and who is he with? Well, they went to Rahab's house, and she was a very business-like woman. Well, now they're calling her a prostitute, a harlot, right? But they don't really say that when they're explaining the story, as far as I could understand. But they're saying she was industrious, like she had her own business or something. Like she was always kind of working, kind of. They didn't say that though, but I got the impression. But she had a type of house where the roof was like all straw, and it was a lot of it, and like you could hide in there probably. So I don't know exactly where they were hiding when they got in the house, but when they left, they were like at the straw part, or they were on the top part of the house, and she either helped them when they got in or got out with some red string thing with a red cloth, right? So it's almost like it has the symbolism of when Pharez and, what's his brother's name? Pharez and, well, those were twins, right? And that's the story. No. I think Jacob and Esau are the story of the red string. They were twins, but they're not fraternal, and that is clearly evident by saying Esau is red, Esau is Edom, Esau is hairy, Esau is, right, and Jacob was not like that. But they put the string on I don't remember. Didn't they put the string on Esau? I mean, Esau came out first, and then, okay, I have to look this back up, like today, because one of the names means to push past, to burst forth, and that might be Esau. So maybe Jacob was coming first, and then Esau just burst forth. No, I don't think so, because I think that red string symbolizes the holding on of the genes. So maybe it was the good one that had the red string. Maybe Jacob I got the red string. Yeah, that's what happened, huh? Jacob was supposed to be born first. He got the red string, right? And then Esau pushed past him and was born first, right? So he became like look, I don't remember. I'm going to have to look that up. But it's important, the red string, because in the Rahab story, it's a red string that is placed from the top of the house for either Jacob and his friend to get in, who they're calling spies, right? Because they were spying at Canaan, right? Or it's when they were leaving. But it's the same thing with the red string. So I'm going to have to clear that up. But I like those two stories, because they mean something. And look at this whole thing, this whole chapter is about by faith, but they had to have something. And you see, they're mentioning these, like, well, invisible strings to me, right? Because like they're bringing up Esau and Jacob, and that's the story about that string. But isn't there something about Pharez and his brother when they were born? There was some issue with them. I'm gonna have to look that up. But David is from the line of Pharez. So that is why it was like, boy, that's a weird story, the way it's presented in the Bible. It comes out of nowhere, right? And you're like, yeah, well, and then there was Pharez, and you're like, who's Pharez, right? And you realize the way it's written is strange, and it's telling you can't forget about it. So look, I forgot about it, but not completely. Because look, I'm 20 pages to the end now. We are 20 pages to the end. Like, less than 30. Let's see. "21 pages. Okay. It's kind of sad, huh? Not really. Because all of these things that I have written in the margins that I have not studied and written in the descriptions, I'm going to have a good time doing that. So every day, like I was reading this, I will go back and put in a description. And that'll help me remember all this stuff, hopefully. I pray to God to remember. That's like the thing. It's not like, go read the Bible. You hear that? Go read it. Go read it. That's not the problem. You can read it. You have to remember it. That's the whole problem. What are you talking about? Read it. You have to process it, understand it. That's a whole nother thing. Okay, read it, and then you got to process it and understand it, and then you got to remember it. See what I'm saying? Okay. But Rahab, she has something to do with this symbolic red thread, right? That midwives or whoever puts on the first, if there's more than one in them, or maybe they just do it all the time in case somebody else comes out. So they always put the red string on the firstborn that comes out to identify that was the firstborn, because it is horribly important to those people who is the firstborn. And it's like in a case like this, they probably did it all the time because it was so important. Now that I think about it, they didn't wait. Like, how do they even know there's twins in there? You know, it's not like, maybe they do. I don't know. Okay. By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not when she had received the spies with peace. Also, the other thing I remember her by is because why does everybody call her a harlot? Because in the original story, I don't think she's presented like that. But everybody else sure calling her one. And look, is this really Paul talking like this? It's kind of weird. He's calling people hoes, B's and H's. I don't know if this is him. That's suspicious to me. Well, I really want to go back to that story. Like right now. Okay, let me just finish this though. And what shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon and of Barak, right? These are all the other prophets, right? Gideon, Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, of David also, and Samuel, and of the prophets. Oh yeah. I don't know if Gideon is 300 was more he was more, he just obeyed God, like Job, right? Barak, like, who's that? I know that Barak means, like lightning, right? Or something like that. But who's this Barak? Somebody really good, though. And it was Samson, because it would not be her. And I don't remember who that is. And, but I remember, doesn't it, when Esau went to Edom, right? Where he's really not supposed to be. He should have just, like, stayed with his brother. But that's just how he was, right? He's a wanderer. He was wild, right? And that's what it says. He was just wild. And they said, like, his father Abraham kind of, like, maybe like that about him. Like, he was so wild. And, like, he'd go out and he'd get this wild venison. And he'd get him all these treats all the time. And, like, all this wild food. He was a hunter, right? While Yaakov, like, tended the farm. Tended, stayed closer to home. Did, like, house things, right? And farm things. Esau was a wild one, right? But his first wife, or one of the first women he started marrying, and this is the whole problem, this is what happened. Remember when God says, do not go out and marry strange women, because what comes from it is the idolatry. And what did Esau do? He goes over there. He starts going to Mount Seir, Seir. He starts marrying all these Nephilim-related bloodlines. He starts marrying someone named Aholiobama, with an A. Aholiobama. Remember that? I don't know who this Brock is. I don't remember. I thought it was not a good word, but it's somebody really good, because he's being compared to Gideon, Samuel. Who's Jephthah? Is that Japheth? I don't know who that is. Jephthah? It has to be Japheth, right? Nobody talks about Japheth. I don't know. Of David also, and Samuel, and of the prophets, who, through faith, subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions. Right? Where's Daniel? Anyway, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to fight the armies of the aliens. Now, I should be able to pick every single one of these descriptions out with those people. See? Gotta figure that out. Because we should be able to, like, A equals A, B equals B. Because those are descriptions, or probably the people above. Women received their dead raised to life again, and others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection, and others had trial of cruel mockings and scourgings, yea, moreover of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, they were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented. Well, that's okay, because the Catholic Church, like, went in and just, like, so much land, and, like, yeah, they got even with that, I think. Do you think that's what they're trying to do? No, it's them writing their own law, misinterpreting this book right here. Can you imagine that? So who's ever saying this, look what they did to the prophets and the saints and the martyrs, right? They were stoned, sawn with saws, tempted, sworded, left totally destitute with sheepskins and goatskins for clothes, afflicted and tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. That's right. They wandered in deserts. See, that's disturbing to me, because it's very clear Satan and his these spirits, they wander in deserts. So why are God's people having to wander in the desert? And in mountains and in dens and caves of the earth. So it's just not the troglodytes that, this is important, it's just not the troglodytes, right, in Mount Seir that were in caves. Of the earth. They are the martyrs of Christ, right? Who are also in the caves. So, but the desert is another matter. I feel this is a particularly bad place that we keep hearing in the Bible, or maybe I heard it somewhere in some, like, other teaching with David Carrico yesterday about it. Maybe it's in Matthew, right? And these spirits just wander in the dry places, right? It sounds horrible, right? But, like, why would children of God, like, even being kicked out of all society? Okay, I understand the mountains and the dens and the caves, but the deserts, maybe they were just stuck there. They could never get out. Like, they're in the middle of Saudi Arabia or something. Like Edom, like sand everywhere. But it would seem that these people who are martyrs, they would stay out of places like that. Anyway, and these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. Oh my gosh. Is that guy like, God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. So he's just like, if you don't do it, look, this whole thing is about, it seems to be about all these people did all this by faith. And now in this last This 39 is very troublesome. I absolutely don't understand what it means. In these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. Is he trying to say that after all that work, after all these things, that they didn't receive the promise? Are you trying to say that they did not meet God? Is that what you're trying to say? That doesn't seem right, does it? And the last sentence again, God having provided some better thing for us, that they, without us, should not be made perfect. Oh, that sounds like he's too big for his britches. I don't understand that. These last two sentences, these last two verses are disturbing to me. And yeah, I'm going to have to look that up. But to me, this red string thing will shed more light. Maybe. But this is all by faith. And then the guy gets to the end and he goes, hey, by the way, even though all these people had a good report, they received not the promise. So they never met Christ. What do you mean? God, yeah, we know he wasn't born yet, but what do you mean they have not received the promise, so they never made God? Without us should not be made perfect. Maybe without this gospel, they could have, look, I just think that's really presumptuous thing to say. I don't know who's talking. It doesn't sound like Paul. It doesn't sound like somebody else.